What's up guys, Cody Bidlow, sprintingworkouts.com and ATHLETE.X. Haven't trained in a couple weeks. Did a nice session with a variety of resisted sprints. I used the rapid release, did some 30s, finally hit some block starts, hit a nice flying 10 from 20 to 30, and then I did some resisted 60s. That was not this Tuesday, but the previous Tuesday. Right now it's Saturday, so it was like almost 2 weeks ago. Couldn't train after that because I had a trip I went on with some friends. It happened to be my birthday weekend, so we went to Joshua Tree. Basically for the past almost week, I've been sick and felt pretty terrible for a couple days. So today's my first day back. I started the workout with some tempo. I did, after a 5-minute jog, I did 6 times 30 seconds at 12 miles per hour. So I set the time, let it get to 12, and then I'd run for 30 seconds, walk/jog for like a minute and a half in between and go again. That felt really good. Now I'm doing some jumps, doing seated vertical jumps. Gonna do a little bit more of this, then we'll hop into some other things, but figured I'd bring you guys along for a gym session. It is raining like dollar bills at a strip club, so not gonna be training outside for the foreseeable future. So let's get after it. On the OVR, the best I've jumped is a 38.9 with an approach. Without an approach, I think I've jumped 36, just for reference. And then at the Apex, I jumped 38.6 on a Vertec. 30.5. 30.7. All right, so that was 31 inches, 2.66 RSI, 296 milliseconds. When you're looking at ground contact times and things like RSI, I would avoid thinking that just because this is a 296 millisecond ground contact time, it's going to directly relate to that point in the sprint where you're on the ground for that long. Think of it more as you're doing this to develop underlying physical qualities like the tissue qualities and the neurological qualities required to break fast and then jump fast and jump high, and that's why you do this. Same with other exercises in the gym or other non-sprinting exercises we do. We're using those to try and develop underlying physical qualities, and then we go do the main task, and we hope to see some transfer from those physical qualities. But you're not gonna see transfer from the exercise to the main task. You have to develop those qualities and then practice the main skill, and then you might see some transfer. The jump was low, but the RSI was much better. That was a 2.43 RSI. Not as good as the second to last one, but the ground contact time was shorter. It was 281 seconds. Typically, you can feel it when you have a short ground contact time jump. It's pretty noticeable. And if anything, as a sprinter, I would err on the side of you want to jump, a certain height. Like if you only jump 2 inches off the ground, that's really irrelevant. But as a sprinter, the main quality we're after is not jumping high, it's storing elastic energy, being able to get off the ground fast, and then apply force during that ground contact. So I think there's a balance to be had when you're looking at RSI, ground contact time, and the overall jump height you achieve. Obviously, we want to jump very high because it's fun, but at the same time, you have to sort out for yourself, where am I going to prioritize things? And for me, I'm trying to get off the ground as fast as I can, and as long as I'm like mid to high 20s on jump height, I think that's probably good enough. If I jump like 20 inches, then that's not really what we're after. If I'm on the ground for like 400 milliseconds, also not what we're after when we're doing this height, 18 inches of a drop jump and looking at RSI. Also, when you're doing drop jumps, there's only so many you can do, so you got to keep your volumes in check. You can't do like 50 jumps and expect to feel very good the next few days. I'll probably do a few more and then call it. 2.60 RSI, 0.254 ground contact time, 26-inch jump height. So that was probably my best overall rep. I'm gonna do like one more and then we'll move on. I really don't want to fry my Achilles and have it shoot off across the room here. That wouldn't be good. All right, let's end on that one. That was a 2.55. Ground contact time was 278 milliseconds. Jump height, 28 inches. So, not bad. All right, now we're gonna do some reverse lunge. This is probably going to obliterate me because I haven't done them in a while, but this is the time of year to cause some tissue change. And also, I like this because you're overloading, one side, even though it's not a totally single leg movement. You have some more balance, so it helps you produce better force than just like a true single leg squat. I like the idea of being able to use less overall load. Like if I want to really load up and work on like neural drive and just as much force as I can possibly push on a squatting exercise, then I'll use my Kaiser belt squat that I have at home. But if I want to cause some tissue change, if I want to overload one leg and lower the spinal loading, then this is a great exercise for it. It's also, a little bit of like more balance requirements and things like that, which I'm not going to say that that's going to transfer to sprinting, but I do think there's something to be said for doing split leg exercises and kind of training from a strength perspective, training the tissues of the body in that split position. So that's what we're going to do right now. I got 185 on the bar, which is basically my body weight, and we'll see how it goes. Easy. Oh, come on. Yeah. I think one thing as a sprinter to keep in mind is you do want to push yourself. You don't want to be a pencil neck who can't lift any weight. But at the same time, you're not a power lifter who needs to lift the most weight possible. So it's kind of like lift enough to get the adaptations you're looking for, but that won't leave you ridiculously sore and at risk of an injury, because the risk return needs to be there. Once again, another trading analogy. If you're going to do a trade, the risk that you put on the table needs to be in line with your conviction that this is likely to go in my direction because of whatever factors are involved in your decision-making process. You don't want to risk a bunch of money on a trade that has a low probability of transferring into profits in your pocket, right? And with training, the same thing goes into it. The load that you use needs to be in line with what your goals are. And if your goals are sprinting faster, obviously moving more weight is great, but it's not the end all be all. Could I do 315 right now? 100%. But is the risk worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't think so. I'd rather hit more sets here, get a quality stimulus out of it. It's an appropriate amount of stress for what I'm looking for. And you always got to consider that when you're deciding exercises, loads, and that sort of thing. So I hit 5 reps on that. I'll do 5 on this side and probably call it a day. Next time, my goal will be to hit 5 reps on each set at this weight, and then probably increase the number of sets before considering going higher. That's one way to progress without changing the load or changing the exercise, is just manipulate the reps that you do, number of sets you do, and that sort of thing. All right, so that was an overall solid session, I would say. So recap, hit the tempo, 6 times 30 seconds at 12 miles per hour on the treadmill. Then we hit the seated vertical jumps. Then we went into the drop jumps off the 18-inch box. Both of the jumps were done with the 18-inch box. Then we headed over here and did the barbell reverse lunge, working up to 275 for 5. I can tell already that I'm probably gonna be quite sore tomorrow in the next few days. But this is a perfect time for that for a couple of reasons. One, it's raining all week, so it's not like I'm gonna be going and sprinting anytime soon. Second, the time of year. It's November right now. This is not the time to be running your fastest. You should still be training fast, but this is not where you want to be performing your best. You want to perform your best in, depending on where you're at in the world and what level you compete at, maybe April, May, June, July, that sort of thing. So this is a perfect time to be doing lifts that are going to hit you a little bit harder from a tissue perspective, so that way you can get some tissue changes, and then over time you get used to the exercise. It no longer makes you sore. You get stronger at it. You can put out more effort, more neural drive, and that sort of thing. And then you take those increased tissue qualities, or those, strength and that sort of thing. You take that and you then use that when you sprint, and hopefully you're now sprinting on a stronger base overall. I like the idea of doing the split leg exercises. It's going to hit your adductors more. It's going to work on strength in that split position. So all around, I think it's a great exercise, or any variation of this is a great exercise to include in your program as a sprinter. You just don't want to introduce it close to competition, because that's going to take away from your abilities. You want to introduce these types of things farther away from competition, so that way you can integrate it into your system, integrate it into your body, get used to it, and then build from there and have your performances come at the right time. And if you look at this workout as a whole, it's a pretty well-rounded workout. We got kind of a warm-up / some general endurance. Then I went into the more power output type of exercise, which is that seated vertical jump. Then I went into the stiffness and elasticity exercise of the day. The drop jumps, looking at RSI, looking at ground contact time. I was able to hit mid 200s off of the 18-inch box. I want to work on getting better at that over time. And then we got the strength exercise, general strength, but in a position that is maybe a little bit more relevant to sprinting than just a typical back squat.